everyone, this is the CS Revelation. Welcome to a new video on Java. Today's topic is inheritance. Now, inheritance in Java allows a class developer programmer to efficiently build one class from another class. So rather than having to reinvent the wheel, a class developer can take advantage of the methods in one class and automatically include them in another class, plus add some more of their own methods. So the new class that is based upon the original class is called the child class, also known as the subclass or the derived class. And the original class is known as the parent class, also known as the superclass or the base class. So let's take a look at this diagram. So now notice that we have a class A, and class B, which is a child of class A. So class B is a child of class A. Also, we could say that class B is a subclass of class A, which is a superclass. So we have a subclass B and a superclass A. Now, class B extends class A. And what that means is that class B will inherit all the properties and methods that class A has defined. So all the properties and methods of class A will be inherited by class B, in addition to some additional members that class B can add, right? So we have all these elements, properties, and methods of class A. They will be inherited by class B, in addition to some extra ones. Let's take a look at this example. Notice we have a class animal, which is our parent class. It's our superclass or base class. And we defined this class to have one property that is the name and two methods, eat and sleep. So we're saying that an animal, description of what an animal must have a name and is going to be capable of eating and sleeping. So two actions there. And then we said, because not all animals are the same, they all have some different features. So what distinguishes some categories from other categories is that they have some extra features, right? So for example, if we take a look at the class cat, cat is an animal. However, it is capable of doing something extra and unique to the cat class. So a cat is an animal, and that's why it's going to be inheriting all these three elements here. So it's going to have a name, is going to have the capability of eating and sleeping. However, it's going to have a color and is capable of meowing. So only cats are capable of meowing. And if we have another category, for example, class dog is an animal. Dog is an animal. Is going to have a name and it's going to be capable of eating and sleeping. However, it's going to be able to also bark. And barking is just an extra feature that is only available at this category of animals. So to sum up, so cats and dogs are both animals, except that they're similar, but they're not the same. So they both extend class animal. That means they will inherit all the features of class animals because they're both animals. However, each category, class cat or class dog, is going to have its own extra features that will not be available to one or the other. So, like I said, a cat is going to be able to meowing, and a dog is going to be able to bark. But a cat cannot bark, and a dog cannot meow. However, a dog and a cat both have names, and both are able to eat and sleep. So, class animal is the superclass, and class dog and cat are the subclasses or the child class. So, class dog and class cat extend class animal. On the basis of a class, there can be three types of inheritance. So, in Java, we have Single inheritance, where one single class is extending another class. So, for example, class B here extends class A, which means that class B will inherit all the properties and the methods of class A. And then we have multi-level inheritance. That's where we have a chain inheritance. We have class B extending class A and class C extending class B. And in this case, class C will inherit everything from class B, including what class B has inherited from class A. And then we have hierarchical inheritance. That's when we have two classes, class B and class C, extending the same class, class A. That's in our example, class cat, class dog, both inheriting the class animal. These two types of inheritance, the multiple inheritance and the hybrid inheritance, are not supported by Java for various reasons, and they're only supported through interfaces. And we're going to learn how to make these hierarchies or these types work in Java, but through interfaces. That's going to be in future videos when we tackle interfaces. But the only three that are by default supported are the single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, and hierarchical inheritance. Let's create a new Java project. So I'm going to call this inheritance project. Okay, and so by default, we're going to have our main class, but we're going to add our own classes that's based on the hierarchy that we just seen. Okay, so the first class that we're going to be creating, so right click on the inheritance source package, and let's just add a Java class. This is going to be class animal. So that is the first class that we're going to be creating. So class animal. So class animal is okay. So class animal is going to have its members. So we have the name and we have the bark. I mean, sorry, eat and sleep. So it has a private um, variable here that is the name. So it is of type string. So it's private to class animal. And then we're going to have the two methods. That is public void eat. So let's see. So eat, that is going to be, all right. So system out print. We're just going to use some simple code here, not to complicate things. So for the eat, for example, we're going to say eating, right? So eating. And I'm going to make this say animal is eating, right? Okay. And also it's capable of, all animals are capable to sleep. So it's also going to say animal is sleeping. Okay. Okay, so these are the two methods, and this is the one property of the animal class. So we just defined our animal class. And then we're going to add our two other classes. Notice now it's going to be different. So let's start with the cat class. Is that the cat class, it is a subclass of animal, and that's why we should add the extends keyword here. So class cat extends what class? It extends the class animal. And what that means is that the cat class is going to be able to inherit the name property and the eat and sleep methods. And of course, it could add its own. So for example, here we said that the cat has a private property, and that is, sorry, private property, and that is color. So it's going to have a string color. Okay, so now we defined the first property, and then also it's capable of meowing. So public void meow, right? So that is that. And so here we're going to say meow, meow, for example. Meow, meow. Okay, that is So we just defined the class cat. So we said it is a class that extends the class animal. So you notice we did not type the code for the properties name, and also we did not type the code for the two methods, the eat and sleep, because the keyword extends here means that it will be able to use those methods because it has inherited them from the animal class. Okay, let's also add the third class here, which is dog. So dog is going to also inherit, but what class does it extend? It's going to extend the class animal, so extends animal. Okay, so extending the class animal, so public class dog extends animal, and a dog has a private property, and that is private property that's going to be also string color, and we're going to also add its one method that is to bark. Okay, so we're going to say dog is barking. Okay. And okay. So now we just defined our class dog. We said it extends animal. That means it will inherit all the properties and methods of animal class. But in addition to those, it's going to also have this property color, and also is going to be able to bark. There's one thing that we missed, that is the constructors. So by default, Java will have a default constructor for you. But I'm going to add, actually define a constructor for the dog and for the cat. So for the dog, so we can say public dog, and we're going to say that when constructing this object out of this class, you need to give a color, for example. So string C for the color, and also the name. So I'm going to say string name. Matter of fact, let's have name first and then color. So now we have color and name. Okay, and let's have our setters here. So I'm going to say this dot name, or actually we're going to say this dot color. Color is equal to C. Okay. Yeah, actually don't need the name here. Let's just not do that. Okay, so we have this. And also for the cat, I'm going to add its constructor. That is what we're going to use to create our objects, to instantiate these classes. So public cat, and it takes also the color. So I'm going to say string C, and I'm going to make it this dot color. When I say this dot color, I mean like this private color property. That's what I'm referring to, is going to be equal to C, which is the value as the parameter of my constructor that the user will give when invoking this constructor. Okay, going back to inheritance, the main class. Here, this is where we're going to be creating our objects. So I would like to instantiate the class animal. So I'm going to say animal. So animal A equals new animal. And this is using the default constructor that created a class, an object A, which is an instance of the animal class. However, it doesn't really make sense to create any objects out of the animal class, because that is just a generic class that dog and cat will build upon. You may find use for it, but I'm actually going to do something else, which is going to teach us something about abstract classes. So I'm going to turn this animal class into an abstract class. So it's going to be abstract. And abstract class means that we are turning this animal class into a class that cannot be instantiated. Means we cannot create objects out of this animal class. However, we will be able to extend it. So class cat will extend animal and dog will extend animal. But when going to here, you're not going to be able to create objects out of animal class. So it's going to be, uh, it's not allowed to instantiate an abstract class. So that's something about what is an abstract class. An abstract class is a class that cannot be instantiated, means cannot create objects out of it, and but you can extend that class. So you see here, it says animal is abstract, cannot be instantiated. So I'm not going to be instantiating it. Okay, so let me create objects. So I'm going to instantiate the cat class and also the dog class. So let's create a cat object. So that is by saying cat c1 equals, let's say, new cat, and I'm going to include, so I'm not going to use the default constructor, but I'm going to use the constructor that I've defined, which takes a string value that's for the color of this cat, C1. So I'm going to say it's a black cat. And then we're going to instantiate, say, dog. So dog D1. It is equal to new dog. And also this one takes a parameter, which is of type string. And that is going to be for the color. So I'm going to say white. So we have one object that we instantiated here. This is an instance of the cat class, and this is an instance of the dog class, which means that we created a black cat, which is an instance of the cat class, and also a white dog, which is an instance of the dog class. Now, let's have C1 invoke its method. So as you notice here, when I put the dot operator, you notice that these are the available methods. And C1 is able to meow. That's the thing that it is capable of doing. That is because we defined, C1's class that has this method, meow. So it's going to be able to meow. And I'm also going to make D1 bark. And that is because in the dog class, we have defined this method for the dog class. So let's start with those two, right? So when we run this, notice that as a result of this line of code, it says meow, meow. That means it's cat1 that is meowing. And here says dog is barking, which is the result of D1.bark. Now, if I was to also have C1, let's say invoke the eat and invoke the sleep, right? So these are two methods that were not defined in the cat class. Notice we don't have eat and sleep here. However, they were inherited from the parent class, which is animal, because like we said, cat extends animal. That means it will inherit the methods that were defined in the animal class, right? So animal class has the eat and the sleep. So also let's have the dog invoke the inherited methods, which is eat and sleep. So any animal is capable of eating and sleeping. That's how the animal class has defined them. So we should have three outputs here and three outputs here. And let's take a look at how that output looks like. Okay, so the first three lines, that is the cat1 invoking, or C1 invoking the meow and the eat and sleep. Notice that it says meow meow here, but it says animals eating, animals sleeping. That is because that is these two methods, the eat and sleep, they were inherited from the animal class, and they were defined to output that message, which is animals eating, animals sleeping. In our case here, it does not make sense because we don't want to say an animal. I actually won't say cat is eating or cat is sleeping. Same thing for dog here. Notice that it says animals eating, animals sleeping. So it's not saying dog is sleeping or dog is. It's still correct that the dog is an animal and the cat is an animal. However, we need more specific information. So to do so, this is going to lead us to the next topic, which is method overriding and method overloading. So first of all, let me say that the difference between method overriding and overloading, overriding means that you're going to override the inherited methods, but you must keep the original signature, the way it's defined in the base class. With overloading, you will only be restricted to keep the name or use the same name as the original definition. However, you can change the parameters, so you can add parameters or um, eliminate some. So let's take a look. So in the cat class here, we only have one method that is defined here. However, the cat class inherits two other methods, the sleep and the eat. So suppose that what we want to do here is to modify what the eat and sleep really say, right? We want to modify the body of those two methods. So with that said, we're actually going to be overloading these two methods, right? So overloading them means we're going to uh, type the methods and we have to keep. So overriding, sorry, we are overriding these methods. So we should keep the same exact signature as the parent signature. So notice we cannot mess with this. So this has to say the way it is. However, we can modify the body of this method. So I'm going to make it say dog. I'm sorry, this is the cat one. So it says cat is eating. I'm going to say this cat is sleeping, right? So I did not modify this and I did not modify this. The two signatures are the same signatures as the animal class. So it says public void eat, public void sleep. So here it says public void eat and public void sleep. If you hover over this light bulb here, it says, do you want to add the override annotation? So I'm going to add it. I mean, you don't have to, but I'm just adding it. That's just, at least it's a reminder that this is an overriding of the inherited method eat, and this is an overriding of the inherited method sleep, right? So now if we run this, notice the difference in the output is that because we only modified the cat class, and these are the outcome for these three lines of code, that is the invocations for the cat1 object. So notice it says meow meow as a result of this. It also says cat is eating and cat is sleeping. Now, it's not saying animal, it says cat is eating and cat is sleeping. However, the dog is still saying the same thing. So we could do the same thing and go to the dog class and also override the inherited methods, that is the eat and sleep. So we can't really modify this, but we'll modify the body of the method. So it's still going to be the same name of the two methods that were inherited from the animal class, the parent class. However, when we run this, the output is going to be different, and it says cat is sleeping and dog is barking and eating and sleeping. So it says dog and it says cat. Right now we can distinguish or differentiate between the invocations or the outputs. So I said this is called method overriding, and that is because we are simply modifying the body of these inherited methods, but we're keeping the same exact um, signature as the parent's signature. Okay. Now, let's take a look at what method overloading really means. So, method overloading is you must keep the same exact name as the inherited method from the parent, but you can play around with the parameters. So I'm going to overload. So I'm going to overload the eat method in the dog class, right? So I'm going to overload this by adding a parameter here, saying, for example, int, let's say 5, x, right? So int x is an extra parameter that I added. So even though, see, we have two methods that says public void eat and public void eat, but this is just an overriding of the inherited method from the parent. But this is going to be an overloading of the eat method, which means it's going to load more parameters to this method. So when I go back to inherit and I put D1 and the dot operator, notice that two methods will appear. There's the eat and there is the eat int x, which means that we have two methods that I can use. If I use the eat, is this going to be outputting something? And if I use the eat that takes a parameter, it's going to do something else. Let me go back here and make this saying dog is eating, I don't know, let's say X amount of, what do dogs eat? Yeah, dogs eating hot dogs. That's funny. Okay, so basically you're going to give a value here when invoking this method, and this is going to output dog is eating as many, whatever, hot dogs. Okay, so go back here. Notice when I say D1 and I choose to use the second eat, and I'm going to give it, let's say, the integer value that I promised, and I run this, notice now that it's going to be outputting dog is eating as a result of D1.eat, and dog is eating 4 hot dogs. That's a result of the dog.eat. That takes an integer parameter. So to recap, that the main difference between method overloading and method overriding is that you keep when overriding you must keep the same signature, they must keep the same exact signature as the parent. For example, for the eat, that is the same signature. However, you will be able to change whatever the body of the method is intended to execute. But method overloading is using the same name as the inherited method, but you can load as many parameters as you want in the parentheses. Also, you can eliminate some parameters if the parent's method takes some parameters. So you can modify the signature or the parameters part of the signature of that method. And also you can modify the body of that method. And you notice here we have two methods, two eat methods. There's one here and there's one here. They both have the same name. However, this one, it takes no parameters, and this one takes one integer parameter. And the two methods execute two different instructions. So they have two different outputs, and they execute differently. And just another, it's an animal that is capable of eating. However, it is eating in a dog way, right? So just that's how to put it. We basically, this class builds on the eating method that was inherited from the animal. So that is the eating method, and it made it unique to the dog breed. So if you're saying a dog is eating, but is eating in its own way, right? So that's why we modified the body of the method, and also modified, when overloading, we modified the set of parameters here. So this is just a recap of, first of all, just a recap. So we talked about inheritance, one class extending other classes. And also we talked about the abstract classes. What is an abstract class? Again, it's a class that cannot be instantiated, but it can be extended. And also talked about method overloading and method overriding. So I said method overriding, that's keeping the same signature as the inherited method from the parent, but you can modify the body. And method overloading is that you can you have to use the same name as the inherited method. However, you can change the parameters part. So you can add as many parameters or eliminate some of the parameters, and also you can modify the body of the method and have it say something else. Okay, so I'm going to end this video here, and I'll see you in another video where we talk about classes and objects and more on this topic. So peace.